This is Urdizzle back with a Frozen Valley walkthrough, which I did not remember until recently that I had not done. I had posted a video a while back of just a 3-star run through, but it wasn't any commentary. It wasn't walking through any of the holes. It was just showing the 3-star on the course. So I thought I'd step back in and do a more thorough walkthrough of the course and the holes. So I'll start you guys off with my bag, which I changed up a little bit for this because I know a lot of people don't have the big drivers. So I decided to tackle this walkthrough with no Ballista Pros. But just check this out. So my putters, I have an Accurate Sticky Keystone, which I've been using a lot for shorter forehand throw-ins. My Accurate Glide Pure, which I don't really use very often at all. It's more of a placeholder. The Accurate Wind Fuse and Compass, with the Fuse being my main driver. And then my traditional fairways, the Accurate Wind River, the Accurate Roll Explorer. I do like the roll attribute for the stickiness on the ground. The Accurate Wind Musket and the Accurate Glide Musket. I love those. Those are probably my two most used discs. The Wind Glide Recoil, which I love, and I know a lot of people don't really use. Then the Light Skip Havoc, which I don't know why I threw that in there. I don't even think I use it at all. But then two discs that I like to use, the Glide Wind Ballista, or regular Ballista, not a Ballista Pro, and the Light Glide Ballista, because those are two discs that I used quite a bit before the Ballista Pro came out. All right, so we start off with hole 1, and I find the camera pan over for this hole, the flyby, to be a little interesting because it's the route I never take. It takes that wide left route. Maybe that was the original hole design, but I prefer the wide right route. And I prefer using the recoil on this hole. I think the distance is perfect. And so this rock out here to the right, I try to aim my middle arrow right there. Now, a lot of people don't realize a tailwind is going to have a tendency to push your disc further over to the left. It basically kind of speeds it up, but pushes it more overstable early. So I don't know if you noticed on that throw that I put a little bit of turnover on the disc just to get it to follow the flight path that I was looking for. So we'll check it again. Again, middle arrow about that rock, and that was pretty close to a straight pullback, maybe a little to the left. And it's just anywhere in there. Remember, if you've watched any of my videos, my goal is not to park it. It's to get anything inside 65. If I can putt, I feel pretty confident that I'm going to make 99% of those. So here, wind of 1, again, middle arrow on the rock, and that is all there is to it. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't throw a recoil, and so that kind of changes things a little bit if you're using a Ballista or, honestly, if you don't have a driver, this is going to be a hard 3-star. So if your fastest disc is a musket, that's probably not good. Now, I had an interesting situation happen here. I have a Light Glide Ballista, and mid-air I realized that it was probably not a smart idea to use a white disc on a snowy course. So I do like the Light Glide Ballista, but I realized right about there, I'm like, that was just not smart. So we're going to go ahead and just putt this out real quickly and change that out. That was a bad miss, but yeah, that's white was not a good choice. So luckily I've got a couple Light Glide Ballistas, and we're gonna go, I've got a pretty purple one. Yeah, we're gonna put that'll be much easier to see in the snow. So I apologize for that one. I thought I'd leave that in there because that was pretty funny. But so we'll try the light, actually with a tailwind of 3. I'm gonna show you what a musket will do here. I think the musket is not a good choice, but if you've got a tailwind of 3, I'm gonna have to put a little turn on this one. You might be able to get it down there. So musket was actually enough disc there. You're going to need, actually it's almost parked. You're going to need a tailwind though, because the musket normally doesn't have the distance. So if you hit this with a headwind, it's probably not going to work for you. Let's see, wind of 3, I think we're going to go with the Wind Glide Ballista, because that'll counter the effects of the crosswind there. And remember, the Ballista is not quite as overstable as the Ballista Pro, and that skipped quite a bit longer. I was hoping for, but again, 49 feet inside putting range. So you just got to be careful when you disc up on this hole. It's easy to go long, but you've got the hillside there to kind of take care of things for you and slow it down at least a little bit. All right, wind of 1. I mean, we could try the Light Skip Havoc, which I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think I've ever used this disc, but maybe a couple times. So I don't really know it, but I mean, that worked out all right. They got almost no skip, so I would assume the skip will go a little bit longer normally in the snow, but lots of options here. But again, I prefer this wide right route. I just think it's the safest. So if you choose to go the route of the camera, the problem is you've got the trees coming into place right here. I'm just going to pull straight through. So that tree, I snuck it through and it worked out well. But for me, it's like I don't understand why people would take that route. It's a reasonable line, but if you're bringing the trees into play when you don't need to, I don't understand why you would do that. Maybe it's wind, distance control, just for my money. That was an awful spit out. Wow. I even lowered my aim a little bit. So that's something you need to watch on this course too. There's a lot of subtle elevation changes, and this one's not even subtle. I mean, you can obviously see the slope, but there's several holes that have a little bit of elevation change that if you're not paying attention can cause those spit outs. So just kind of be aware of that. But I mean, that's true for all courses. You have to watch that. I hope the developer will add an elevation meter at some point, so you can tell if you're 1 meter, 2 meters. I mean, I'm going meters because I know he's Euro. Whatever works. But again, I think if you're trying to birdie this hole regularly, consistently, just throw it out wide. So there, the wind was favorable again, so I showed you the musket works pretty well. That's pretty much it for hole 1. Nothing too extravagant or mind-blowing there. Hole 2, on the other hand, is a make or break hole for a lot of people. This is arguably the hardest hole in the game. If not, it's a top 3 hole. You've got water there short with ice. You've got a landing island that you can hit if you go driver. You've got this, which is uphill, so it makes the shots into the basket a little bit harder. You got that one protective tree there, the guardian tree, but it's within putting range, so it's not too bad. So this particular one, I would normally start you off with what I would throw regularly, but I want to show you that a lot of people, when you come into this, especially in multiplayer games, are not playing for birdie. Like, let's be clear, if you're expecting some magical trick that'll allow you to get birdie on this every time, it's not going to happen. It just doesn't exist for a 1,500-foot hole. So what I'm going to show you here is actually the safer route. And the safer route for me is to throw the accurate glide musket. Aim it short of the water, anywhere in here. There's no need to get hyper aggressive if you're going for par. And then my second shot, I'm going to actually play through the gap here to the right. And on the second shot there, it doesn't look like there's a gap, but that one tree is a little deeper than the other ones. There was a nice gap. And then once I go musket, my goal is to avoid the ice. Now I'll bump up to driver. So that was my light glide ballista. Get it out here, and then if you get it in this range, you're 295. You can just throw a forehand. So this is my accurate glide musket. It's an easy par. But unfortunately, that's not what people want to see. They want to get birdie on every single hole, and I think that's why I really like this hole. It's super tough, and it's just not a guaranteed birdie. Everybody wants the guaranteed birdie, and it's just not happening on this hole. I mean, I bet there's very few people in this game that could play this 20 times in a row and get 20 straight birdies. Like, I would struggle immensely with that. In fact, I could probably make an entire video on just this hole and giving you strategies. And at the end of this, I will show you what my preference is. This is probably one of the few holes in the game where I will actually add a specialty disc. So say, for example, I'm trying to, I don't know, do a course record for this. I will throw in a different disc, but we'll talk about that a little later in the video. So again, second time through, easy par. And I would bet the average for this, you would gain strokes on people if you're able to get a par consistently. Okay, so let's say you do want to be a little more aggressive. I bumped up here to the wind glide ballista, and that one was really good, but man, that was close. And so that is the risk you run, where you are bringing the ice and the water into play. You may go out of bounds, but it's that you have to be aggressive. You have to bring the risk. Well, that was a weird kick. Into play if you're going to go for the birdie. So the problem, I think, with if you're going to bump up to a driver is Ballista Pros are the longest discs in the game, but they're too overstable. And the reason I say that is because you can always turn it over, but in the end, it's going to fade back. So there I was able to get the birdie out of it. But the Ballista Pro is going to want to fade left, which means you have a very, very, very small target area. Like, that was awful. I did not mean to do that. Okay, there's a nice path over this way, but that was not what I was wanting to do. I just aimed a little too low. So here you've got to get a little aggressive over the top, and I'm just trying to get it to land. And this is most definitely going to be a par. I mean, I'm 500 feet away, but you have to go through trees and it's uphill. So I'm just going to play one over here, hopefully get inside 200 if I'm lucky. I mean, still got trees in the way, so 190 barely, but I was hoping to get it back to the fairway. So I guess the smarter play would have been to do what I just did, but maybe with a little more hyzer to get it back to the fairway for some kind of throw in, because right there was no shot at throwing. But getting back to the Ballista Pro comment, it's, I think, a challenge for people getting a driver to go straight. And so the Ballista Pro will just fade left, and your target area, your window, is just not very big. So for my money, I like a Ballista Pro, but I actually use a glide turn Ballista Pro. This disc is money. If I could expand my bag and add like 1 or 2 more discs, that would be one I would throw in the bag. I think it is perfect for this hole, and I'll show you. So let's head back to the course. It's set up perfectly because it has the distance, it has the glide, but it also has the turn where you're not going to get that end fade. And that disc has popped up in the store many times. I think I got this one from a Level Up. So here I've got a crosswind, a right to left crosswind of 3, which would normally push a disc out of bounds. But look at that turn, just fight it. And if that rock's not there, I'm probably still staying in bounds. Now I'm behind these trees, but it's the distance. I'm across the water. And so even if I do that, so that was not a good shot either. So the first drive was pretty solid. That was a average second shot. But now here I'm 472, and I'm going to throw it one more time. And there you go. So I mean, I am to putting range. That's all you want to do. So that turn disc, and that's why I threw, so when I threw the first 2 times I threw this hole, I threw the musket for safety, and then I bumped up to the Ballista, the wind glide Ballista, because it's a little straighter, but it just doesn't quite have that distance. So now right here I have a left to right wind of 3, and I put a little bit of hyzer, and watch this disc. It just holds. I mean, that is just, it is absolutely, it's almost like this disc was designed for that hole. And if you don't have it, you could come up with some other turn Ballista Pro or something. I don't know. Like, that's the only disc I have found that will consistently give me the distance and go straight. The Ballistas just don't do it, and I don't know, just that's what it is. So right there, able to get 2 really good drives with really difficult winds of 3. 1 left to right, 1 right to left. So it's there. But I think luckily, if you're trying to 3-star this course, man, here's another wind. They're no joke with the winds today, so we're going to go again. But if you're trying to 3-star this course, luckily this is hole 2. So if you grind it just until you get the birdie and then move on. Now, unfortunately, you have holes 3 and 4 coming up. That's crush. Miss the tree. No. All right, that's pretty good too. This should be an easy birdie as well. But if you're trying to 3-star, get the birdie on this, but then you have holes 3 and 4 lurking, which if you're trying to get eagle, like if you're trying to build those buffer strokes in to allow you a little bit of flexibility when you get to the later holes, you're going to have to get a little aggressive on holes 3 and 4 to try for eagles, unfortunately. And so this stretch 2, 3, 4, that's why I think the deep freeze AI tournament is probably one of the hardest tournaments to do really well, because you have to play this course 1 through 9, but then you have to play it backwards. So you've got holes 2 through 4 lurking on the back end of that second round, which just, it is no joke. All right, hole 3, as we were talking about, this is one of those eagle holes. But so the flyover here is giving you the land-based route. And I will show you a lot of different routes here, but I think everybody's wanting to know the ice route. And by the way, that's actually why I'm just now getting around to the Frozen Valley walkthrough, was because the developer was tweaking the ice when the course first came out, and so I didn't really want to mess with it until the physics were kind of ironed out. So my first shot here is just a nice, safe, accurate glide musket, and that actually almost went water. But you're 282. This is just, it's a mid-range, or like here's my roll disc. So this is my roll Explorer. Watch this one hits the ground. Boom. It's like Velcro. It just stops. And I use that disc all the time for tricky shots like this. So again, another one, if you want to play safe and get the birdie, it's there. It's easy. There's no need to risk anything. You can even play it a little wider if you wanted to, but I'm going to disc up a little bit, so I'm going to go recoil. And the recoil is a little more overstable, so I have to kind of watch where I aim. But I've used that disc enough that I'm pretty comfortable with it. If you're not, you might want to experiment a little, make sure you know where it's going to go, because again, the recoil is a little more overstable than the Ballista. And then easy upshot, 41. I mean, again, I think this is, if you play smart and you know your discs, your mid-ranges, I think this is an easy birdie. But what do we do if we want to get a little more aggressive? So I'm going to go light glide Ballista here. And I just flipped that over. That is me not remembering how understable that disc is, and luckily it came out of it. I threw that like a Light Glide Ballista Pro, and it was not a Ballista Pro. And so the left to right window 3 just kind of took it. And I'm going to go ahead and throw my Glide musket here. I just got to be a little careful. Yeah, I left that a little shorter than I wanted. So I probably could have disked up a little bit. That is definitely not where I want to be. Yes, I missed that one. So that's the thing, is when you're playing it safe, you got to be a little more aggressive on that second shot, because you don't want to have a 70, 80, 90 foot throw in for birdie. That's the kind of throw in you want to get for eagle. All right, well, what if we kind of get a little more aggressive? So instead of aiming right out there in the water, I aim a little bit further this way, and I go forehand. So what the forehand will do for you is kind of play in this area here. And unfortunately, when you hit the ground there, it kind of skips up the hill. And so, yes, you're out here, and yes, it's a shorter second shot, but it's like, if I'm going to get that aggressive, I kind of want to don't leave myself with like a 200-plus footer. Like, aggressive means I want to have like 100 or 120 foot shot for eagle. So we're going to have to tweak where we aim a little bit based on that. But the Light Glide is still a good choice. So we're going to aim a little bit further to the left and a little lower. And this is the risk you run. So going through, just missed there. And getting in here, that was phenomenal. But your target area is so small there. I mean, it's there to do what I just did and get eagle. But be aware that if you try that every single time and every single win, there's going to be ones where you go in the water and you're re-throwing. And then the best you're going to do is get a par out of it. Unless you can magically throw in, get an ace on your third shot to save birdie, but that's not likely. So what I like to do, and I know that looked dangerous there, but I've thrown that a lot, is I will throw the backhand shot like that, because then the end fade is kind of taking it towards the basket, where the forehand's kind of taking it away from the basket. And so you get a throw-in opportunity, and that was off the top. But it still gives you an idea of where you can land to give yourself an approach shot. But like any other course, you have to be good with throw-ins. If you're only able to make throw-ins out to 80, 90, 100 feet, you're kind of limiting your ability to eagle some of these holes. And so here I played a little more of the low turn. I have no idea what that's going to do. And so right there, you notice the water on the edge is actually inbounds out a little bit. You see that on a couple courses. I know there's a lakeside hole that's like that, where when you land in the water, it's still technically inbounds, depending on how far how far in you are. Now this next shot's going to seem a little weird, but just bear with me, because I'm going to show you something that's going to play in the next hole. I'm going to throw a fuse. Now some of you are like, why in the hell is he throwing a fuse? Well, if your goal is to get, and see, this is going to be a tricky win, so this is actually not probably one. I don't even know if that's going to make it to the basket. No, that is water. If your goal is to play it safe, some people have difficulties with getting your aim points correct. Yeah, that was just a bad shot. So that was probably not the way I wanted to illustrate a safe shot. But if you're aiming on the land to the right to play a safe shot, the ice, you can land on the ice. Now, if you skip into the water, you're all the way back on the land, which is a problem. But just hold that thought for a little bit, and I'll show you some idea, like an idea I have for hole 4. So that I would never do that for hole 3 there, but it's laying the groundwork for hole 4. So hole 4, very similar. You've got small landing areas with the land to the right, the basket kind of tucked in here, so a little bit harder. You also have the ice options. So let me show you some of the different options you have on this. You can go left, right, there's ice, there's land. This is, I think, a very tricky hole. I don't know if there's really a good safe, like really safe option on this. So I'm going to start off with the Light Glide Ballista and do a forehand just to make it safe. Now the problem with doing this is you're now 465 feet away. That to me is an extremely difficult shot to lay up now to get birdie out of this. Now, I've got the Light Glide Ballista, so for me, that's really not that bad a shot. But I think for a lot of people that are struggling to 3-star this, having your second shot, especially after, let's assume you went birdie, eagle, and you're in really good shape to get your 3 stars, you are not going to want to go into this hole having a 465-foot shot to try to get your birdie. And so you can be a little more aggressive. So there's some nice ice over here, and you can kind of aim for the land. So over here is a nice spot to be in. So notice I'm not 465 anymore, I'm 300. And for me, 300 is just a musket shot. Easy, easy, easy. That is why, if you guys ever wonder why I have so many fairways, because I've got the River, I've got the Explorer, I've got a pair of muskets, it's for distance control. I can pretty much handle any drive. Like a lot of people focus on the tee shots. I also focus on what are some of the second shots that I may have on these holes. All right, so here, again, I'm going to get a little more aggressive, but that wind, that's another one I'm not thinking, because the light glide ballista with a right or left to right wind is just going to carry that way to the side. And so here, I don't even know if that's going to be inbounds. Yeah, that was a crappy shot. So that is, if I was trying to demonstrate or illustrate for you an easy, safe shot, that was not it. Yeah, see, that's me not using my light glide ballista for a while, kind of getting used to the glide, or excuse me, the light glide ballista pro. So I threw it a couple times and then just took the drop. 310, easy stuff. But let's be honest, people aren't here to watch hole 2 pars or hole 3 birdies. They want to know what's the ice line, like what's the aggressive line. So I'll show you some different shots here. So I'll start off with the light glide ballista. And luckily we have a wind of 1, so this will be pretty consistent. Not too worried about. Okay, that should work. So playing it high. Now the problem with using a driver is drivers don't have the accurate attribute. So without the accurate attribute, you're going to run into some consistency issues, and you'll get good shots like that. Like that was a phenomenal shot, but it's not like if I were to try that over and over like 10 times, I would not get that same result. Especially here, like look, I've got a wind of 3, which I'm going to play that a little wider. Come on, baby. That should work pretty well. Now right there, those are 2 really, really good shots. But I've found that over the course of 5, 10, 20, 100 shots, like I'm not getting those results consistently every time. You can always disc down. So for example, if I went to, let's try a recoil here, same kind of shot. Now recoil is a little more overstable, but you have to watch. That's not going to be good. That's in the water. So, ooh, stop. Oh, almost. But again, they don't have the consistency because they don't have the accurate attribute. And so I could throw another one and that'll work well. And you can adjust. You're like, well, if I want to avoid the water, I can always do this to get closer to the land. So that right there is a really good shot. But I find that those don't work. Like I want a shot that'll be consistent 5, 10, 20 times most of the time. Like that works best the most often in all winds. So what I actually like to do is use my musket. I think the accurate glide musket in most winds is probably the slowest speed disc. Okay, not gonna lie, that was actually a pretty crappy shot. But I find it's the slowest speed disc that actually gets me where I want to go. We're gonna have a little fun here. Throw it up over the top. I don't even know if that's gonna be enough. Oh, that was so bad. Let's try a fuse. I just want to aim up over the top. Usually what I would do is I'd probably throw a compass out around the rocks to the right, but we're doing a walkthrough video. We can have a little fun. Oh, that would have been so nice to hold that one out. So I find it interesting, though, that I'm telling you that I prefer throwing the musket because I think it gives me a better chance at an eagle. Yet I got an eagle with ballista and recoil, and I just completely tanked it with the musket. But yeah, okay, there you go. So this is more of a musket shot. And watch the ice. It'll actually start going to the right and then finish to the left. It's so weird how it does that. That's actually why I waited. Remember earlier in the video I talked about why I waited so long to do this walkthrough, because the physics on the ice was being tweaked. It never used to do that before. It would actually turn to the left harder, more consistently. Okay, now I prepped you guys for this. This is my fuse. I would argue that this is one of the harder holes to play a safe shot on. You could play it out to the wide right there, but then you leave yourself a really, 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 really long shot. This is my safe play. I will throw a fuse, just land it on the ice, and then look how far I am. I'm 287 feet, and then I bring my accurate roll, and that was not my best shot, but still was right up there, my accurate roll Explorer. But here's the thing. You can land on the ice. It's safe. But if you go in the water, you're all the way back to wherever it crossed land. So my safe shot is actually, here we'll do it in a wind of 2, is to throw a fuse. I just throw a fuse out onto the ice here. Super, super, super safe shot. Again, this is not the aggressive. You're not going for eagle. But look at this. Right out in the middle. And I'm 272. And that is a much, much, much easier shot than having those 300 plus foot shots. And I like to land it. I'm really not trying to land it up there. With my roll, I would probably be a little more aggressive on the second shot there. But it's just, I would rather have a 280-foot upshot than a 400-foot one over water. Remember that first one was 465. Now here with a wind of 3, that is a significantly harder shot. I actually like, there's a route way out here to the left if you really, really want to have some fun. Now, I would never try it in a headwind of 3, so I'll tell you what, let's do a quick reset here to show you guys what you can do if you have a favorable wind. Now, I would never do this because there's much safer lines. Okay, perfect. So now we've got a tailwind of 3. Watch this. So I'm going to throw my light glide ballista out wide here. And check this out. Again, much, much smaller landing area, but if you can get it, I'm now attacking it from the backside there. So there's some fun stuff you can do on these holes. I'd never do that, but it goes to show that's what to me is a good hole, is gives you a little flexibility with how you approach it. Lots of correct ways. Speaking of holes with a lot of flexibility, this is the exact opposite end of the spectrum. I find this to be it's a pretty hole. It looks nice, but I think it's really, really, really boring. There's just not a lot to it. You've got one route, the tunnel out off the tee here. I don't think there's a good consistent eagle opportunity here. Now with the wind of 2, I'm going to try this. That is with the Havoc skips. With the Ballista Pro, I've actually got up there in the opening and eagled this one before, but it's just, your window is so small, you're just not going to, like if you gave me a tailwind of 3 and a Ballista Pro, like any Ballista Pro, light skip, glide skip, light glide, and you let me mess around with it, I could probably eagle it, but am I going to eagle it every time? Probably not, just because the window is so small. So to me, this is one of the more boring holes on the course, and I love par 4s. Don't get me wrong. That's actually, I know a lot of people like the par 3s and like the ace runs. I like well-designed par 4s. This to me is just kind of meh. You've got one window off the tee, one window upshot. Even right here, like I can throw a river into this and not even worry about it skipping long. It's just, and it does go downhill a little bit, so you got to be aware of that. That if you run this and then you're putting back up, it is uphill back to the basket if you go long. But just, I find this to be boring. It's just target golf. Here, let's say you only have a musket. I don't know if you can get it there, but like that was my wind glide ballista. You can do that. And again, 330. So if you only have muskets on this, it would probably be challenging. I would say if you're trying to 3-star this course and you only have muskets, go 3-star other courses, guys. Like there's so many other courses that are easier to 3-star than this that'll give you, like Coyote Canyon, if I remember correctly, gives you a no attributes Ballista Pro. You can get the wind ballista from Owlwood. Like you guys can't go into this course with nothing other than muskets or maybe a recoil. Like that's just, there's no magical fix that's going to get you 3 stars on this course when you don't have the goods. Yeah, so I think that's about it. Like I can show you, I'm trying to think if there are any other discs we can do on this one. We can go recoil here, or let's go musket. So this is so if you want to get aggressive, actually, let's show you what happens. So right here, if you get up in this middle, this is where you don't want to be. Like right here, this is just, I'm not saying you can't get up and down from here, but there's just nowhere to go. So that's why I play the forehand. If you noticed off the tee, I did the forehand on almost every shot. If you play the backhand and you don't turn it over enough, or you just don't throw it correctly with the wind, you're going to get pinned. And then you have this. And then if you have to throw in from under that, like, again, I've made shots like under those branches, but if that's what you're relying on to get birdie, that is just, you're just not going to do well on this hole. Now, the good thing is this is not 800-900 feet. Here is an accurate glide musket forehand out to the middle here. And then 358, here is another accurate glide musket into the basket. So it's downhill a little bit. So you could technically go musket and get your birdie out of it. It just, again, to me, a boring hole. Just boring, my least favorite hole on this course probably. Well, I don't know. There's actually a couple other ones that might fit the bill on that one. All right, then we shift over to the par 3, and I like this one. So I didn't like the last one. I really like this one. It's a par 3, which ironically I usually prefer par 4s, but I like this par 3 because it's risk reward. So what I will do is I will aim a little lower, and I'll aim like, that's actually not where I normally like to aim. To me, that's cutting it too close. I'll actually aim a little further out to the right, to the middle of the island. And it's all about your comfort level with putts and throw-ins. So for me, let's see if we can get a shot, try to hit the rocks where I like to aim. Put a little turn on this guy. Boom. So those rocks out in the middle, and that's perfect. I like to land anywhere around those because it gets me inside putting range. So here, 57 feet. If you're not comfortable putting from 57 feet, go practice. Like, because it'll make your life so much easier. Otherwise, you're going to force yourself to be a little more aggressive than you need to be, especially on a hole like this. And I'll show you at the end of this walkthrough here what the drop zone looks like, because there is a drop zone on this hole, and it sucks. It's throwing back into the water, and you don't want to have to do that. So I would definitely try to err on the side of caution. But again, I'm throwing that accurate windbreak musket. It's perfect. Now, what if I diss down to a river? A river can get you there, but you see that barely got over the edge. And 57 feet, which is good. So I would say if you have a tailwind, a river would be a good disc. If you're going to throw Explorer, the Explorer is a little more overstable, so it probably will not, like it'll right hand, backhand at least, will fade towards the water. So let's go ahead and throw it directly into the water. I want to show you guys the drop zone here. And so it's 172 feet. This is not easy. I'm going to mess around here with my forehand throw in, and I'm going to speed it up a little bit because it takes me a few shots to get this in here. But if this is the shot you're relying on to get your par, like you're in trouble. So I'm just going to try it a couple times here. It's just, I don't know. I wouldn't call this one of the harder drop zones because there's a couple that are just ridiculous on Owlwood, but this one sucks. So this right here is just to illustrate, play it safe, give yourself a 50-foot putt coming back to the water, and see, I hit it there, but it's just, I don't know, not a smart play. So we shift over to hole 7, and we're in the back stretch here of par 3s. So holes 6, 7, 8 are your par 3s. I like this one. It's a very precise shot. I think it has a lot of characteristics that make a good hole. It's a little longer, so you have to disc up a little bit. So right there, that is my wind glide ballista. You can't throw an accurate disc, although there are some certain winds. I suppose I'll show you a little later. You could throw a musket, but overall, and okay, right there. Now that was actually a downhill putt. Now a lot of people don't realize this does kind of slope up a little behind it. So if you are putting back towards the basket on this one, make sure you take that into account because it's easy to bang it off the top. All right, so the first one was the ballista. That was a recoil. The recoil is pretty nice distance for that, and it kind of fades into the left like you want the disc to do. So that's actually not the disc I throw. I throw my Glide Roll Ballista Pro. Let's throw the recoil again with the wind of 3. So you got to watch the crosswinds on that. That's actually why I like the recoil, because it's the windbreak and it'll fade back for me. But you got to be careful because that wall will come into play. And I'll try to show you guys a little bit how that wall can become a problem. So here, this is my accurate glide musket, and it'll get you here. So if your goal is to get to the opening, you can hit right here, but you're going to be outside of putting range. So you're probably going to have to do a throw in, which a throw in with the one wind is fine, but you got to be careful how you aim there. And if your goal is just to hit the opening, you can throw an accurate disc. So here, there's also a route to the left of this tree where you can kind of play a turnover. I will use that sometimes if I have a really wicked wind and I want to kind of counter it a little bit. So you can throw left of the tree there. That's a reasonable line as well. But let's kind of talk about that wall. And to pair that up with another shot option I see some people try, I'm going to switch to my light glide ballista, is some people put like a high route. I personally don't like this because you're bringing in the trees and you're going to have to use a higher speed disc, which kind of takes away some of the accuracy. So here I'm going to try to throw behind the wall, see if I can get it. I don't know if that's going to be far enough. So right here, I'm kind of pinned behind the wall. I think I'm actually in a spot. Okay, so that one I was able to throw it in. There are some spots, though, if you get pinned behind there, that you have no shot. Like the wall will stop you. I think that one, my lie actually might have been on top of a rock, which is why I was able to shoot over. So right there, so that's almost the same spot. I think we need to get a little further left. So let's putt the disc over here behind the wall. There we go. So if you don't hit the opening, you're right here, and it looks like you've got a path, but unfortunately that wall is too high. Now I'm going to try to throw through the wall here, which, no, that did not work. Yep. So can't throw through it. I know there's some, like on Coyote Canyon, you can throw through the rocks. But so right there, see, I could not throw over the wall. So if you do not use the proper disc and you get pinned behind there, there's pretty much no chance of you getting a birdie out of that. So just be careful, be smart when you're choosing those, and don't get don't get pinned behind the wall. So your main goal then should be to hit the opening. So right here, I just threw my musket, my accurate windbreak, right in the opening. Now wind to 3, that is not, I'm not saying that's a gimme throw in, but at least there you have a birdie opportunity. So if all else fails, throw your accurate discs, get to the opening, and bank on getting a throw in. All right, we finish off the par 3s with hole 8, and this one is treacherous. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And a wind to 3, I'm going to throw my recoil here. The recoil is a really good distance for this, and that just took off. That was not the best of shots. I could have played that a little wider. You have to kind of trust that the disc will come back. But yeah, there is a lot of stuff going on here. Luckily, the snow acts a lot like the sand in Coyote Canyon. It's not like a regular ground play where it'll skip a lot. That's why you can't really do rollers on this. Now, that looked like a really good shot. I worry a little about those lower shots because that little red fence over there it does come into play. I've had many a good shot clip that and roll down the hill out of bounds. So here I will throw my accurate glide musket, and the musket will get there. So right there, that will get there. You just got to be careful when you're going to use that disc in the wind, because again, being an accurate disc without the windbreak though, it's going to be more susceptible to your crosswinds and your headwinds. So like right here, it would not be a good choice in a 3 cross headwind. So there I threw. Now that was my accurate windbreak musket. That just wasn't enough disc. That's just not enough disc to get there, especially into a headwind. So you have to be careful on that one. But did you see what also came into play was that ski lift? If you try to play a low, hard shot, you can clip the wires. You can knock it out of bounds. So you have to be really careful how you do that. So here's the accurate glide musket with a crosswind. And so see what happens. Like it gets there and it works. It's a little dangerous. Let's see if we can get a less favorable wind. Oh, there we go. So crosswind to 3. Now watch this one. See how the wind just pushes it to the right and then doesn't get high enough and then it's out of bounds. And you can make height adjustments, but I'm just making the point that if you're going to use the accurate glide musket, be careful in higher winds. All right, and we finish off hole 9. So I said how I didn't like hole 5 as a par 4. This one I really like. It's such a good hole, but some of you, like hole 2, are probably looking for some magical fix for this one. This is one where you are going to struggle if you don't have the big discs. If you don't have the discs that'll get you way out there, this is going to be a struggle. So I'm going to start you off here with my light glide ballista, and my goal here is just to get as far out straight as possible. Remember, I don't have my Ballista Pros because I know a lot of you don't have those. So I could come up here and start firing my Glide Skip Ballista Pro, but if you don't have it in the bag, what's the point? Now, I'm 576 feet away, and you're wondering, like, well, that's a driver. Well, I'm going to throw the recoil. Remember, this is really downhill, and that was probably not the best drive left to right, but that was long. Like, keep in mind the elevation change. I think a lot of people ignore the change in elevation and don't realize what a significant effect it has on your discs. So even there, that wasn't a great shot, but I was within 61 feet, so I was able to putt. All right, let's try the light glide again. So whatever your longest driver is, throw it here, get it as far out as possible. Don't worry about fading left. And so here I'm 549. And so based on what I said there, I'm going to throw my recoil again, but I'm going to so it's got a slight headwind. I'm going to make the adjustment slightly, and it still didn't quite come back as much as I wanted, but it slid under, and should be a little closer than the last one, which is putting range. So there's another example. Again, I was not going for the basket. I was going for putting range. I think that's a rookie mistake in Disc Golf Valley and in real life. You don't have to get right next to the basket. You just have to get a look. All right, so wind to 3. We'll play another one out here, and that one's much more favorable wind, so I should be closer than the 540 that I've been the last 2 shots. And let's see what we got, 444. All right, so some of you may look at this, see 400 feet, and think, that's probably a driver. I'm going to throw a forehand river and watch what happens. That's the elevation I'm talking about. It was 444 feet, but it's downhill. I threw a forehand river, and forehands are, in general, forehand is about 80% power from your backhand, give or take. So I powered down river, and it still made it there. That goes to show you how much elevation change there is on this hole and how you have to adjust for it. If you go driver, you're going to end up long and back in those trees. So here, 432 into a slight headwind. I'm going to go forehand river again. And even if I land right there and stick, now I got a great kick kind of over that and slid on the ice. But even if I don't, I'm within 50 feet. It's an easy putt. There's no danger. There's no hills. There's no fence. It's just right there. All right, now let's say I disc down to a recoil. This is where things start to get a little sketchy. If you go recoil, the recoil barely gets down here, but now you haven't made the Mando yet. I'm going to get a little crazy here. If this is my shot, I'm going to go forehand accurate glide musket and do a crazy, crazy, crazy flex. Because remember, I still have to make the Mando. Okay, that wasn't even crazy enough. That's probably out of bounds. I want to show you what, I want to show you what you have to do, though. If you don't make the Mando because you don't have the distance, I'm going to do the exact same shot. And there we go. And I'm just looking to get anywhere down there. So you are going to have to bust out some crazy, crazy shots. That was actually my accurate wind musket to do that. That was just a bad shot. But that goes to show if you don't have the big drivers and you don't make it far enough down there, you're going to have that Mando to contend with, and that is not where you want to be. So let's say right here you throw a musket. Like it's just not far enough. It's just not far enough. So you really have to bust out your drivers. And so here I'm going to try to play, if I got stuck here with only muskets, I'm going to play a huge hyzer around there. And that's all you can really do is just play for a shot out here and maybe try to get a throw in. So it's 222. I'm going to go with my forehand. Yeah, it's too low. But that's what you're banking on. So that's why I think if you're trying to 3-star this course, it's nice to get the birdie on 2 if you can, and then an eagle on either 3 or 4, so that you can come into this hole with a buffer knowing that, hey, if I get a birdie, great, but if I get a par, it's not going to ruin my round. So that one was way wide. But I think what you guys need to see, too, is what the drop zone looks like. So here, why don't we just throw it out of bounds and take us to the drop zone. Oh, I guess I didn't technically miss the Mando. All right, let's throw it again. That missed the Mando for sure. So I was trying to miss the Mando. I just didn't make it far enough. So that'll be inbounds, but missed Mando. There we go. So it's good to practice all the drop zone shots. This is 525. So this is a little out of my river range, but again, 525. I'm going forehand glide musket. Boom. So there you go. If you've got the disc, and that was into a 2 headwind, I believe. I wasn't really paying attention to the wind on that one, or maybe it was a crosswind. But all right, that is it for Frozen Valley. I know this is a little bit longer of a walkthrough, but hopefully you guys got some good information out of it that'll help you take care of things. So now I'm gonna, before I forget, I guess I can show you one thing. So this is what I would throw on hole 9 if I was throwing my glide skip. Wind to 3. Now we don't want to do that. I just want to show you what you could do if you had a glide skip Ballista Pro or another skip disc. Like let's say you have a glide skip Ballista, that works too. Watch this one. So it fades, kicks, and then all the way down there. And I've had shots, I've gotten within 10 feet of the basket on my drive, but here 320. If I was throwing river for 400 plus, that is my mid-range. That is a compass, easy shot. So the better drivers you get, the easier that hole will become. So just kind of be patient with it. And that's all I've got for Frozen Valley. So if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. I will have a couple more videos coming out, which I've mentioned in other videos. I've got a forehand series coming out, and then once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be releasing my video that has aces on every par 3 in the game. So hopefully you enjoyed. Good luck, and best of luck getting your 3 stars on Frozen Valley.